Today we're going to talk about standing bow pose. In the Bikram world they call it standing bow pulling. In Sanskrit it's Dandayamana, Dhanurasana. A few weeks ago we did a video on standing head to knee where it's more of a discussion. That's what this video is going to be. I am going to show you some pictures and some B-roll videos for reference, but this is about understanding intellectually how to do this pose, how to best execute this pose and improve in the position. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of mistakes many people make, because once you can better understand intellectually how to do this pose, you're going to see dramatic results. You're going to see a major improvement, I guarantee it. I'm going to cover soup to nuts, from raw beginning first day student all the way to the most advanced student. We're going to show you every step of the way and how to get there. And I claim this posture for myself.
I claim this land as property.
And you want to listen to me not because I was able to do the final position, the standing bow. It's because I taught hundreds of people how to do the final position, standing bow, and that's not why we're doing it in the first place. We're not doing it to master the full expression of the pose. We're doing it to find our own personal best. We're doing it to reach our own full potential. And like I said before, a lot of people limit themselves because they don't have the mental understanding on how to execute this posture properly. So let's start with the raw beginner. First, you have to look at your grip. As a raw beginning student, as a yoga teacher, you have to understand this too, and you have to watch for it. 99% of the time, if people aren't used to this style of yoga, they're not going to hold the foot right because it's just not a natural way to reach down and hold your foot. People either hold from the outside or they'll twist their arm around. Look at this video with Lena. Look at the shoulder position of her elbow. When she twists her arm, it's just not the proper way of doing the position. You're not going to get the full extension. You've got to turn the arm outside, not inside. So look at this video and you can see what I'm talking about. Before I show you the next tip, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button if you're enjoying this video. Any questions, comments, or frustrations, put them down below. I get to all the comments. You want to learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, and flows, and factoids like this video, hit the like button right now. Okay, you've got the grip down, the proper grip. Now, I like to hold about where the top of the foot and the ankle meet. In the Bikram world, they tell you to hold 2 inches below the toes. I like to go a little bit lower than that. That gives you a little bit more range of motion, even if it's your first day. And as you get more advanced, you can go even lower, just below the ankle on the leg. That's the proper position of the grip. Thumb and forefingers together, hand around the back. Now, you have to understand this equation because this is key. 40% of your potential for you to be successful in this pose is the back bending. The back bending is going to happen automatically. What you don't want to do is overarch your back. You don't want to get into the position and stick your chest out and overarch your back. Just let the back bend happen naturally. That's 40%. 20% is the extension of that back shoulder that you're kicking with, whichever side it is, and the back hip of the leg you're kicking with. That's 20%. You got to get that extension. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, how to extend the shoulder and the hip, but that's 20%. So what is the remaining 40%? And this is absolutely key, and this is where a lot of people misstep in this position. The remaining 40% is, drum roll, the hamstring flexibility of your standing leg. So here's the equation that you must understand. How high to kick that back leg initially depends on the flexibility of the hamstring of your standing leg. If you kick too high too soon, which I see a lot that happens in the Bikram world, they kick so high as far as they can, and then they start to lower down, but they get stuck. We're looking at this video of Elena. She's kicking so high up, she's not able to lower down because the hamstring of the standing leg won't let her. So what's going to happen is you're either going to stay stuck up there into the clouds, or your body's going to twist to the side because the hamstrings is going to push you over to the side to protect itself. Your head starts to turn, your body starts to turn, your hip and your leg get completely out of whack. So how high do you kick? I don't know. Everybody's different. Every day is different. Now, if you have flexibility in the hamstring of your standing leg, and this is key too, then you must kick all the way up to release the back hip. So that's the problem. I see what a lot of beginner people do. They watch the advanced people in the front row, and they see the advanced person kicking so high up, they think that's what they're supposed to do. But they don't have the flexibility in their hamstring to lower down, so they're stuck up there in the clouds. In the old days, I would give somebody a Kleenex and say, you're so high up in the clouds, you're going to get a nosebleed.
It's not funny.
So how high you kick up depends on the flexibility of your standing leg. Maybe just a little bit so you can get your body down to where the stomach's parallel to the floor, and that's the only way the standing leg hamstring is going to be stretching enough, because if you don't, you're losing 40% of your potential. You're only accessing 60% of, maybe 60% of your potential. To access 100%, you've got to get the body down. Now, I'm not saying don't kick it off. Let's watch this other video of Elena. If you don't kick it off, your arm is too stuck to your body and you lower down, you haven't extended the back leg and that back arm, because you do have to have that opposite direction pull. So if your arm is stuck to the side of your body, you don't have that back range of motion. That's doing it incorrectly on the other side of the coin. We have to find that place in the middle. You do have to kick up, but not too high if the flexibility of your hamstring is tight. Again, how high that is, I don't know. I have to watch your practice and show you firsthand. And the best way of doing that is if you take my class live. If you're not in Fort Lauderdale, if you're not able to take a class from me, sometimes I travel around the world. I'm privileged to do that. However, if you're in the Barkan method on-demand teacher training program, you could send me videos and I can give you direct feedback on your practice. So you're going to kick up just enough so you can lower your body down to where the stomach's parallel to the floor, and then you can start to kick up. At that point, we'll talk about how that's going to be executed a little bit later on. One of the things that I see also people make as a mistake is the chin should be over the shoulder. And what happens is people dig their chin into the shoulder. They take that instruction too literally. You want to be digging your chin into your shoulder because you're creating a tension here, especially if your head is going down. Look at all this tension that I'm creating with my chin glued to my shoulder. We want the chin over the shoulder. The shoulder can actually drop and the arm can reach. So the chin is over the shoulder. Here I have freedom. Here I have restriction, freedom, restriction. Keep the chin over the shoulder. Don't glue it to the shoulder. Don't create more tension. You want to create freedom of movement, range of motion. Now what we want to think about is the extension of the shoulders. One of the big mistakes people make is the shoulders get crunched into their body. So the shoulders look like this. We want to get the shoulders away from our ears, away from our body, so we have that extension of the shoulders. You don't want this motion. You want that motion, so the shoulders extend away from you. You're reaching your arm forward. You're kicking the arm backward. The shoulders extend so you feel your body elastic. Now here's a big concept. A very important concept because, again, it goes against the grain. A lot of times the proper position in yoga and every pose that we do goes against the grain. Our natural instinct is what our bodies are used to, which is most of the time off course. So what happens is the knee sticks out too far. The knee needs to come underneath the foot. So when the knee comes underneath the foot, as the foot grows out of the back of your head, you can actually put your foot flat up against the front mirror. Now in hot yoga, one of the only styles of yoga that uses front mirror, so you know what I'm talking about. You don't want that knee to come to the outside or to the right or to the left of your foot, because then what happens is, and you can see it in the mirror, as you start to get more aware of your practice, you can see the position of your foot. The foot will turn to the side. So let's say my hand is my foot and that knee is sticking out to the side. The foot will actually turn in, and you can look in the mirror, you can see the position of your foot. If you find your foot's turning this way or that way, most of the time you need to get the knee underneath the foot. As soon as the knee comes underneath the foot will come flat and vertical to the front mirror. And that's how you can tell that your hip is in the right position, because the knee comes underneath the foot. It's impossible for you to manipulate the hip, but you can't feel it back there. It's too massive an area. But the knee we can understand. Get the knee underneath the foot so the foot can be flush against the front mirror, and then you know that you're in the right position for that leg to go up to the ceiling. Here's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make as I've been teaching this hot yoga class, over 100,000 classes over a 42-year career. And that I see is that people spend way too much time and energy on lowering their body down to get that stomach parallel to the floor. They're taking 80 to 90% of their energy to lower down to where that stomach's parallel to the floor. Once they get down to where the stomach's parallel to the floor, that's when the real kicking has to happen. That's when the magic will start to happen in their position. So what's the problem? They only have 10% left in their tank to kick. So therefore, they're either going to come out of it, they finally come down, took forever to get down to where that stomach's parallel to the floor, and then they fall out of it. What you have to do is the opposite. Take only 10% of your energy to lower down where the stomach's parallel to the floor. Now you have 90% left in your tank to kick and to reach and to breathe and to get that leg back behind you. And you have to think about the hamstring stretching if you're down that low. And that's when you start to feel your body elastic. That's where you're going to see the magic. That's when you're going to find your full potential in this pose. 10%, 20% max to get that body down, and then start to kick. Here's an interesting factoid of the standing leg foot. Sometimes if you're doing the right side, it wants to turn into a little bit to the left. If you're doing the left side, it wants to turn a little bit to the right. I don't mind it. as long as it's minimal. You don't want it turning way over. But it's just instinctively the body, that foot's going to turn in whatever side you're doing. I don't mind if it's turning a little bit. Definitely don't want to turn it out. Standing head to knee pose, if that foot turns out, that's really bad news because the weight goes into the inside of the knee. That's the meniscus. That's where you're going to run into problems. With a standing bow, it turns in. It's an internal rotation, but it's just a little bit. I don't mind it. Get that body forward. If you're doing 2 sets in this pose, in the Bikram world, you're definitely getting 2 sets in this pose. In the Barkan method hot yoga class, we do 2 sets. In the vinyasa, we're going to do 1. But if you are doing 2 sets, the first set should be completely different than the second set. The first set's an awareness set. It's a balance set. It's where are we right now? What did I do this weekend? Now it's a Monday morning. How's my body feeling? That's what the first set's about, to feel it out. Because the more patient you are, and this is one of the sayings that I had created a long time ago, the more patient you are in the first set, the more results you're going to get in the second set. The second set is now the kicking set. But like I said before, a lot of people in this position, they don't kick. They get down to the position and they just stay there. They just hold their position. Their shoulders coming in toward each other. They're just stuck and they just wait for the pose to finish, or they give up when they can't hold it anymore. So that's the time you want to start to kick. In the second set, maybe halfway through, you get down to that position. You've only kicked up enough so your hamstring will allow you to get down. Now you start to feel your body elastic. Now you start to kick that leg up in the air. And now you feel that full range of motion and your full potentiality. Here's a few tips that will definitely help you, some things that people don't do. 1, don't point your toes so vehemently in the beginning of the pose. If you point your toes so strong in the beginning of the pose, you're actually creating a resistance, a restriction, and it's going to stop your range of motion. Just relax your ankle and relax your foot. I'm not saying to flex it. I'm just saying don't point it so intensely. So when you kick up, now your body's going to have a little more range of motion. It's not going to be stuck in that contracted pointed position. So now you're kicking up, the foot is the ankle are relaxed, you're kicking. Now you think you've reached your final height and your final position.
That makes sense.
Now you can point the toe. But don't do it right away. Don't even do it in the middle, because you're going to create a restriction. And here's a great tip, number 2. Don't hold on to a bony part of your foot or ankle or your leg. I want you to find an area that you can squeeze, a fleshy part. You're going to squeeze the flesh like the archer that's pulling the arrow against the bow. You're going to have that range of motion. If you're holding on to a bony part of your leg or your ankle, you're going to be holding on to tension. But you hold on to a part that you can squeeze. It's like you're pulling that foot back. You're pulling that arrow against the bow. That's the archer. What does Dhanurasana mean in the first place? It means to don the arrow year, to donate the arrow. So that's what we're doing in this position. We are pulling back the arrow against that bow. Find a fleshy part that you can squeeze. Now, in the old days, if I hadn't cut my nails, which is a little on the gross side, sometimes my nails would dig into my leg. So now that I'm kicking up and I'm holding on and I'm squeezing, my nails would go into my leg, and on occasion, sometimes it would start to bleed. So the blood would come down my leg as I'm doing the position. And now I always said, when you're doing this standing bow and you start to bleed instead of sweat, now I really know you're working hard enough in this position. So let's sum it up, and the main thing is the 40-20-40. 40% is the back bend that happens automatically. Let it happen naturally. Don't overarch the back. 20% is the shoulder you're kicking with and the back hip you're kicking with. What's the remaining 40%? The hamstring of your standing leg. And the only way you're going to access that last 40%, which will bring you to 100%, is to get the body down. Get that stomach parallel to the floor. So don't kick so high in the beginning if your hamstring's tight. Once again, the advanced people have to kick way up to release the hip. Don't watch the super advanced person if your hamstrings are tight. You want to find your own position. That's where the practice comes in. How high you kick depends on that hamstring flexibility, and that's where the practice comes in, and you can figure that out. Once you're down there, especially in the second set, start to kick. Saving up energy, you can start to kick, feel your body opening, feel your body elastic, and your pure potentiality in this position, because it is one of the most beautiful and graceful poses in the hot yoga world. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. You want to learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, flows, factoids. Hit the like button right now. Any comments or frustrations, put them down below. I get to all the comments, and I'll see you the next video. Bye, guys.